Well, I've grown up in Newham all of my life, although I was born in Hackney, but I went to Star Lane School. I then went to Sarah Burnell School, senior school, then I came back and went to Eastleigh. So between sort of Stratford and Canning Town, then I lived in Forest Gate. So Newham to me, and I'm back in Stratford now, I mean, I've lived in 3 different areas within the borough of Newham. The whole of my schooling's been in Newham, and as you can see, I now also work in Newham. So it's very, very dear to my heart. I think it's made me. I think coming from mixed heritage makes you a lot more open to everybody anyway. But I think as a person, it's made me realise that there's so much out there in the world because we have such a diverse sort of range of people here. You know, we have people here from all over the world, and that was. I think that there was, you know, I think we had quite a mixed schooling as well. I kind of remember, you know, being 7 at school and you know, and still having a real mixture of cultures of people there. So for me, culturally, I think, you know, it really, really is diverse. Well, I'm a great advocate for change. I think change, progress, I think learning by past mistakes, I think that change is a great thing. I think the fact that I think there's a couple of schools around here that can kind of claim that there's like over 100 languages spoken throughout the schools. I think that just shows that Newham must be an extremely welcoming place. So I think the diversity here shows that everybody is kind of culturally possibly more open than other areas because of the rich history with the docks and everything. So I think that must come from there. Well, that's really funny actually, because my background, I come from a Jamaican, Bajan and English background. I recently did my DNA and discovered that I am 58% Nigerian, which totally makes sense because obviously there was an African country where my ancestors originally came from. With the language, so my family also lived in the East End, like Stepney way. So my grandma, who was born in 1906 in Stepney, she, growing up with her, a lot of the slang that she used would have been what they would have called Yiddish, so it would have been a very, very strong Jewish influence into it. And then my dad's family, like my mum then married my dad, and he comes from a travelling family, so there was also a lot of travelling terms of slang. I have 2 sons, one 27, one 21. One of them just speaks exactly like me, the 27-year-old, which is kind of a real dying out Cockney accent and dialect now. But my younger son speaks more like what I call urban speak, so like the grime artist, like he uses a lot of sort of language. And when I try to break it down with him, I often say, oh, this means this to us, or this means that. It's just, the language has changed, but I think the language now, I think they have more influence from like lots of language, so like from the African community, from the Eastern European community. I think the kids on the street now take little particles from all of that and use it, and I'm sure we did the same when we were younger, but I don't think we didn't have such a diverse, you know, like 30-40 years ago it wasn't as diverse. Like, it was still diverse, but I think we just have it's a lot different now. So I think to have 2 children that have been brought up the same, in the same house, and to have them both speak quite differently, I think is sort of testament to how the influences of their peers and stuff and where they went to school, because one went to school in Essex, one went to school in Hackney, and you can definitely tell the difference in their language and the sort of language that they use. Well, I suppose at this moment in time, because I live just over, quite close by to the Olympic Park, so I think that the amount of change that I've seen in the infrastructure, like the buildings and the housing and the progress, and I suppose that, you know, the more schools there are there, and the fact that there's still lots of people coming here. You know, you can tell by the fact that we've got house shortages that, you know, we've still got lots of people still willing to come here. And I think sometimes, you know, like any place, sometimes you can get a bit of bad press about a place, but I think overall, I think, you know, Newham, it is definitely a fantastic place to live.